There we are. Hello, everybody. Um, Guys, I'm gonna wait for a couple seconds, a few more seconds to let people kind of get on because I don't know how it's like showing up or popping up for you, and if you got your notification yet, and if you're just kind of settling in. So I'm gonna let you do that while I get a sip of water. Um, and then we'll get started because we are excited um, for this talk on today. So, Jess, how's the weather?
Yes, ma'am. The weather is amazing. It's very sunny. I think it's supposed to be like mid 80s today, so I'll take it.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm trying to think here. It's like it's supposed to get up to the mid 80s, but it started like 70s or something.
Hmm.
Um, so it's like, okay. But actually, I think it was cooler than that. When we got up,
Yeah,
it was like 60s, maybe, or like
that's not
60s.
so bad.
Yeah. So, but it's supposed to get up to, and it'll be a true 80 once.
I'm always cold, so I'm here for the heat. So just I'm waiting for it, anxiously awaiting these 90-degree days. Can't
I
wait.
know, but not too hot, right?
There's no such thing as too hot. So,
Really? You're one of
yeah,
those people?
I am one of those people. Chronically cold all the time. No real reason. Not anemic, not low iron, just colder, I guess.
Just colder.
So, mhm.
Huh. So there's not too hot. There's a too hot for me. There is a too hot for me. So I wish I could say there's not a too hot. There is a too hot, but I'd rather be warm than cold. So
True.
that's true. Okay, so I see that we had someone to join us, but hello. I have no idea who you are though, so I'm sorry I can't see that. But if you want to leave us a message and say hi in the chat, we'd love to say hello and recognize who you are.
Absolutely.
I know. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started because I don't want to kind of have this stretched out for too long. And those who will come in and they'll get a chance to kind of see what's going on and we'll help them catch up with what we're doing. But I am Dr. Ashley A. Booth. I'm a board certified family medicine physician practicing in Garden City, Georgia. And I decided to do this series because I knew that there was a need. People need information on how to take the next steps in their health and realize what I actually realized is that taking the next steps in their overall life, honestly, because once you get control of your life, you get control of your health and you're able to do the things that you need to do. And so I want to be able to put information out there. And one of the biggest key factors in doing that is self advocacy, being able to advocate for yourself and being able to tell people, hey, this is what's going on, this is what I need, and to be able to get what you need. So today I have joining me Jessica Wilson, who's also known as Jess the IE. And I absolutely love like what she says. She says she is an industrial engineer by trade, but an intuition endorser by passion. Now listen, the very first time that I heard you say that and I saw that, I was like, man, that is so good. But then I was like, man, that is so deep.
True.
And like it took me a second to fully like understand and let it kind of settle with me and kind of understand like what you were really saying. And I was like, man, that is like so good. And so the other thing about, and we're gonna come back around to that because like I said, it was so good. I had to like sit with it for a second and understand it. And then I was like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Hmm.
But so we're gonna come back and discuss that. But she's also a wife, she's a mother, she's like I said, an industrial engineer, but she's also a breast cancer, what I like to say, thriver, because I don't know where Jess gets all this energy because she like runs circles around me because sometimes we'll send each other messages and I'm like, why is she still up? So
Because
like
I can't sleep, not because I don't want to, but that's neither here nor there.
So I was like, I don't know where Jess gets this from, but you honestly are like a big motivator for me. So I'm like, okay, Jess is
Oh,
doing all
thanks.
the things and she's getting the things done. Get up off of your you know what and get it done and make it happen. And so because of that, I'm just like so honored and so blessed, you know, and I'm so thankful that you decided to join us today, because she's a self advocacy coach. So circling back around to that, like, what does that mean to be like an intuition endorser? What, how do you help people kind of tap into their intuition, and why do you feel like that's important?
Well, as a self advocacy coach, the three main areas that I tend to coach people around are the medical space, employment space, and personal relationship space. And woven throughout each of those, you pretty much have to know yourself and trust that you know yourself best. And in knowing yourself best, we always are told to listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, listen to that little nagging feeling in the back of your mind that says, mm, I don't know. I don't quite know if this is 100% right or wrong, but maybe I need to pull this thread a little bit further. Maybe I need to speak up. Maybe I need to say something. Maybe I need to listen to that gut feeling that I have and kind of follow that along the journey of life versus just listening to folks tell me what they think is best for me.
Okay. So it's not just one part. Like you feel like, and that, you know what I like is that you're focusing on like several different areas, because
Hmm.
it's not just like one part. And that's when I look at a patient, I look at all the parts. You may be coming in because of headache, but is it headache because you're stressed at work? And so now
Right.
we need to kind of talk about what's going on at work. And so I like that you help them look at that part of themselves. So you're saying, okay, you're at work, something's going on, and maybe this is a point where you need to speak up for yourself. So how do you walk
Right.
people
If you're
right?
unhappy with how things are going, how do you mention that to your boss? How do you request that more challenging work? How do you set that boundary with your mom or your child or your sibling? All these things kind of weave together because very rarely is it just one area of someone's life that's kind of needing a little bit of work. There tends to be kind of a common theme that is woven throughout.
So then how do you kind of walk people through that? Because you say you have to know yourself, right? And I've met some people that I'm
Hmm.
like, well, why don't you just say something about that? And they're like, oh no, or whatever. And to me, it seems like there's like a confidence issue or something like that. So have you
Hmm.
found that there are like some common barriers that people have to prevent them from speaking up for themselves?
Yes, there tend to be two common ones. One is a lack of confidence in general. Sometimes folks have an easier time speaking to or relating to someone that looks like them or sounds like them or has similar backgrounds, but kind of shies away when someone's different. Or maybe they just don't have that confidence overall. Maybe they weren't poured into as children and they don't really have that sense of what I say matters, and it's okay if I say some things that ruffle some feathers as long as, we are all working toward the common good. Maybe they don't have that sort of understanding. So it could be the general overall lack of confidence, or it can also be a fear of speaking up toward authority figures. I know that as a woman and as a person of color growing up, we're often told, we have to listen to the police officers and do what they say so that we don't have any sort of negative encounter with them. The doctor must be right. They've went to school. They have all the
Mhm.
answers. Let's just do what they say and just, you know what I mean? We're kind of raised with that. If they're an authority figure, we just almost blindly follow them in a sense. Whereas when I work with folks, it's kind of retraining the brain to say, yes, this person is an authority figure. Yes, they had the training, the years of experience, but you're also an authority figure over your own life. So how do you
Mm.
want this to go? It can go how they see fit, or you can actually play a more active role in it. So once folks kind of understand that, yeah, how things are going isn't quite how I like it, and accept the fact that they do play a big part in how their lives play out, and you can see the light bulb click and then success. And then it's like snowball effect. Small wins build up, and now night and day personalities, night and day people.
Man, that's good. Like how you say, like that you're able to help them see that portion, because, and like you said, you are an authority figure over yourself. And
Right.
I don't think people really see that. You see the authority figure that, like you said, certain people are in certain places,
Hmm.
but you may not fully understand or fully believe that you are an authority figure over yourself. And that's why I tell a lot of patients too. I said, listen, this is your body.
Hmm.
I am here to guide you and to show you what's going on with it. These are your different options. But at the end of the day, it's your body. And then at some point that you don't feel comfortable with this or whatever is going on, it's your body. It's your life. You get to say no. You get to say stop. You get to say, I don't want to do this anymore. Or you get to say, you know what, I
Right.
actually do want to try that. I actually do want to go ahead and do that. But it's you have the authority because it's over you. So I like that. So how do you,
Absolutely.
yeah, do you feel like people are just like lacking confidence, or maybe it's even like a self-awareness, they're just not aware of what's going on and what they're lacking, or what do you think?
I think that each person, of course, is always different. I think that confidence and almost a fear of being labeled or being viewed as difficult, whether you're setting that boundary
Mm,
with the doctor, now you're the difficult patient, or speaking up to your boss, now you're the difficult employee, or even just setting that boundary with the family member, now you're just making things difficult or not being go with the flow or being picky. And so sometimes we're our own worst critics. Sometimes we're not
yeah.
receiving that actually verbally from the outside, but sometimes it's that negative self talk. So I think with a lot of boundary setting and self advocacy, a lot of the work starts being internal work. And then once you can figure out who you are, identify, okay, this may be a trigger for me. Speaking up to a man in a position of power may be a trigger for me. All right, all is not lost. What can we do to kind of have a workaround for you? Is there any people that you trust at work? Is there someone that you can bring to the doctor's appointment with you? So just because maybe speaking up directly is a challenge for you, let's not let that get you dismayed. Let's find ways to make it work.
Mm, okay. I like that because you're right. There are certain triggers that you may not even be aware
Hmm.
is a trigger. So once you are now aware, okay, this is the reason why I don't speak up, because I have an issue with men, and this issue with men stems back to whatever. So now that
Hmm.
we're starting to get to the root of some of these things, then we can now get into a way of being able to kind of take care of yourself and stand up. Like I like to say, stand up for yourself. Essentially, I mean, I know it's
Absolutely.
self advocacy, but I like to like just lay it out and make it simple, make it plain. It's essentially kind of like standing up for yourself and doing what you feel like is best for you. So then tell me, how did you get into this? How did you like, did you just wake up and say, oh, I'm self advocacy, that's how it works, this is what I'm gonna do? Or did you say
Not quite.
not quite. Okay. Did someone like did you have the experience where a lot of people were asking you your opinion on something? You say, "Oh, let me kind of help this out," or someone say, "Oh, Jess is really good at this," or whatever. Like, how did you get into this and doing this?
So throughout my life, I've kind of been a person that can get things done. And so folks like my husband, who may know that I can argue with the Amazon person to make sure we get the refund or something like that. I have, I guess, this ability to get that done, but that didn't really mean anything to me. That was just like, I don't know, I state the facts and they can't argue against them, so they have to give me my refund.
Right.
But my aha moment was something actually completely out of left field. Like you mentioned earlier, in July 2020, I was diagnosed with stage 3 inflammatory breast cancer. No family history. I was under the age of 35, like completely caught me off guard. And so while I'm going through the process of acknowledging the fact that I have breast cancer, trying to figure out what that means for me and my family moving forward, trying to figure out what things are in my control, which things are outside of my control, and then try to move forward accordingly. One of the things that I feel or I felt like I shouldn't have had to worry too much about was the oncologist that I was assigned. Um, Turns out that that was that couldn't be farther from the truth. The initial oncologist I was assigned was a person of color, it was a man, but from the moment I met him, I pretty much felt like he could not care less whether I lived or died. I seemed to be just another patient to him, just another number, and not really a person. And so he would show up to appointments 40 minutes late, no apologies, no explanations, no excuses. He would be trying to, I guess, explain things to me. Now, mind you, yes, I'm an engineer, but I've just been told that I have breast cancer and I need to
Right.
start chemotherapy immediately. And so he's going through and he's trying to read and explain to me what the process will be. He sees that I'm an engineer, I guess it's noted in my chart. He proceeds to say, "Oh, but you're an engineer. You understand all this stuff." And then he
Mm.
stops speaking to me as if I'm a patient and starts speaking to me as if I'm a colleague. And so, like, the empathy was gone. And I'm just sitting there like, this is not right. Would he be like treating his mom this way? Would he be treating
Yeah.
his aunt, his grandma, his sister, his daughter? And I just felt like, no, he wouldn't. And if you wouldn't give me that same level of care, then you don't deserve to be giving me any care at all. And so at that
Mhm.
moment, I started to think how many people that look like me, how many people that are women, that are people of color, that may be socioeconomic minorities, how many people are pretty much dying because they're not getting the level of care that they deserve, because they don't know that they can, that they should, that they're able to speak up. So they just sit there and take it and receive just the standard subpar level of care, and they perish from something that could have been avoidable or preventable. And so, to make sure I'm putting my money where my mouth is, I spoke up to literally anyone and everyone who would listen. The person that referred me, the breast surgeon I was assigned to, literally anyone, everyone. This is not working for me. I would like a change. And not only did I switch oncologists, I switched entire hospital networks, and my level of care has been night and day different. I firmly believe, had I stayed there, I may not have been here still
Mhm.
fighting 2 years later. So it's important to not wait until you're having these sort of life and death critical tipping points in life to make sure that you're comfortable with your medical team. So I encourage folks to speak up, speak out loud, clear, often, make sure that you're comfortable and you trust the folks that are having your healthcare in their hands with your life, because that's really what it can come down to.
So let me ask you this, like, that's a big deal, right? You get this diagnosis, you are trying to figure out, how am I going to live? How am I going to be able to do this? But in that, you're also now having to figure out, how am I going to find the team to support me in this? So were you, when you decided on that, your intuition is telling you something's not right. This is not my
Hmm.
person. These are not my people, because they're not going to get me to where I need to be. So you
Hmm.
have that that speaks up and it tells you that. But then how did you make that next step? Now, is it because you are used to speaking up for yourself, or did you have a little bit of kind of pause before you did it? Like, did you say, well, maybe I should just see it out and see if they're going to do the things and
I like to think of self advocacy as a muscle, and I feel like I've exercised that muscle enough over the years that if you're telling me my life hangs in the balance, I'm not sticking anything out. No, sir, no, ma'am. So my first step was to speak to my gynecologist, because he was actually the person that referred me to go get the mammogram and the breast ultrasound and things like that, because I had mentioned to him during my annual, like, I think one of my breasts is starting to look a little different than the other. I think it's getting a little bit bigger. And he's like, well, you do have breast fibroids, so one of them could be changing, but let's go ahead and get these scans done. Let's get these tests done, just,
yeah.
put our minds at ease. And let me say this quick tangent: you need a doctor that's willing to do that for you. Even if
Mhm.
you both are kind of like, yeah, it might be nothing, let them
Right,
prove to you that it's nothing. Don't let
right.
them just dismiss your initial thought as, oh, you're a hypochondriac. Oh, you're just making stuff up. It's all in your head, because chances are it's not. And so,
Mm.
back to the story, seeing as though he was the person that kind of initiated all of this, and I've had the relationship with him the longest, I reached out to him and said, hey, Dr. E, this isn't working for me. This is what I'm experiencing. And he and I have such a great relationship that he is saying, if you want, I can initiate a transfer for you to a total
Mm.
different hospital network. So a doctor within the network is even willing to transfer me outside of it. And that's how I knew that he values me and my life versus which insurance company is going to pay which out of pocket. It's like he didn't care about any of that. It was, where can I go to get the best treatment in his eyes? And he sent me to where he would send himself. And that's how I knew that he's a doctor I'm going to stick with. And I could pretty much trust and take a deep breath that whoever he's going to refer me to is probably going to be of the same standard as him.
Okay, see that's a good thing because you didn't. So that person was your person because
Mm-hmm.
they listened to you, they understood what you said, they didn't give you pushback, and then they say, okay, let's see where else we can take you, where else can you
Mm-hmm.
go? So that's really important, and that's what I also tell patients too. I said, listen, sometimes it takes a while before you find your person. For you, the good thing is the person who initiated all of this, you had that good relationship with them, so you were able to get what you needed. But sometimes people, their first person may not be the person. It's like it just so happened that they found this thing, and so now you guys kind of have to figure out how you're going to navigate this whole situation. But even if that's the case, and
Mm-hmm.
you, like you said, if you get the pushback and they're like, well, maybe it's not this, or maybe it's totally fine, to still say, okay, you know what, to make me feel at ease, maybe we should do a little bit of some
Mm-hmm.
additional testing to make sure everything is
Mm-hmm.
okay. And if you don't find that that person is listening to you, I'm always under the notion of we can always get a second opinion. We can
Always.
always get a second opinion. That's always because someone else may think something, just they might see something that's unique in your chart that says, huh, I've seen this before, I've heard of this before, this is what could be going on, let's go down this route, right? So
Exactly.
so I am like so happy that you had someone who listened and they say, okay, this is what we're gonna do. So how has that, so once you transition over to the new place and talk to those people, then you felt like they were more receptive of what you needed?
It was night and day,
Mm,
just difference. Whenever I started with the first oncologist in the first hospital network, one thing that keeps like replaying in my mind is how many times he used the phrase standard course of care.
mhm,
Like he was not trying to think outside of the box. He was not trying to do anything. Regardless of the fact of how young I am, I don't have this family history. I have stage 3 inflammatory breast cancer, which is very aggressive. And there are only 4 stages of cancer, technically. He just
mm,
seemed to be like, yeah, we're just going to go in with this chemo. You'll do that for 4, you'll do this for 6, and then we'll take it from there. And it's like, maybe what I have isn't standard. I need you to know the standard, of course. But if something were to go off the track of your standard train, what would you do then? Versus where I am now, I walk in, I see the surgeon, the first words out of his mouth are, "You're entirely too young to be here." He
mm,
immediately empathized with me from the moment I walked in the
mm,
door. I felt free enough to let the tears fall. Like, this man understands. He gets it. He doesn't want to see me. He's not happy that I'm
mm,
here. He gets me in with the oncologist. She's a mom, she's a woman, and she's
mm.
sitting there like, I get it. We are literally going to throw everything we can at this, and we need you to do your job and stay as healthy as possible throughout it. And I'm like, if you promise to do your job, I'll do mine. And we've been on this journey together in lockstep ever since.
Oh, that's so good. I love
Mhm.
it. And I'm so glad that Jess is here to tell us our story because Jess, like I said, will hold you to it because she's my accountability partner.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I said, Jess don't play. So Jess may be Jess the IE, but it also should be like Jess don't play or something. I don't know.
I like that. I could be Miss Just Don't Play. I like that. Okay. All right, Dr. Ashley. Okay.
But listen, so you were able to do this for yourself. And then
Hmm.
what about like other people? Were other people saying, okay, Jess, like were they seeing that you were going through this and said, okay, and they still contact you about something? Or has it just been over the years, people just ask you about this, about that, and you say, okay, oh, this is what I think you should do, and this is how I feel like you should be able to say it. Like how did that happen?
It's pretty much the latter. It's just over the years, folks coming to me because I'm the logical thinker. They know
Mhm.
they can tend to come to me and I can take a lot of the emotion out of it and kind of talk to you on from a logical perspective. We all spend enough time in our own minds and our own heads being emotional about things and potentially overreacting, underreacting. Sometimes it's just nice to get that fresh perspective from the outside. Hey, I'm thinking about going up for this promotion, but oh, I don't know if I deserve it. Oh, I don't know. Like I can help talk you through that imposter syndrome. Or yeah,
Mm,
I don't know. I'm thinking about, I don't know. I don't really feel like I'm vibing with my therapist. And it's like, nope, let's go ahead and get you a new one. Here are some ways you can go about finding a new one. You can start with your insurance company. You can start with this website. So just life experiences and being that logical thinker over the years has helped me help others. And then whenever I sit back and it's like, man, I think I want to start something. And I start asking folks in my
mhm.
circle, what am I good at? And they just start listing
Yeah.
these things. And it's like, oh, I can see a common theme here. Maybe I should package this up and help as many people as I can.
Okay. I like it. So then when I know that one of the things that we talked about, because I know that you help, we talked about all the different areas in which you help people, and of course we're talking about healthcare because that's something that I deal with. That's something that you've been able to navigate and stuff yourself. The other thing that I realized
Hmm.
about how important self advocacy is I recently came across this article, and we both were like looking at it with Oprah. Now, Oprah, with all the resources, all the
Hmm.
things, big celebrity, everybody knows her. In that article, she says, I essentially basically she doesn't trust the healthcare system, or it's so confusing and there's so much that goes on with it. She takes an advocate with her. She's I
Right.
have someone who is an advocate that goes with me because she had a recent procedure that was done. And she said, well, why did we do all of this extensive stuff when it really wasn't that was what was going on? I think it was like she had a thyroid thing, but they were concerned about heart palpitations. So they did all this stuff looking at the heart when they
Hmm.
didn't do just like some of the other basic things. And so she said from
Hmm.
that moment, she was like, I need somebody who knows this system, who knows how to walk me through these different steps. Now, mind you, I know what that doctor was thinking when they did that because there's like, this is
Hmm.
Oprah. And she said she went
Exactly.
to right, this is Oprah. And she said she went to them, she said, why did you do this? And they said, you're Oprah. I'm not gonna, you are not dying on my watch. Like
Right.
this is not what's gonna happen. So they thought about what is the most pressing thing first. How do I get
Hmm.
that under control? And then looked at the other things. But we also have to look at it as like, what are the basic steps and what do we need to do and how do we get there? And so for her to say, I still need a patient advocate, I was like, that is huge
It's
because, and then she also did a documentary on it too, because,
mhm,
and it's called The Color of Care,
mhm,
and it's on the Smithsonian YouTube page, and they also have it on their Facebook page, and it'll be there until the end of May. But it's talking about a lot of the health disparities that we have. And so that is something that people, we really have to truly look at that, because unfortunately that's one of the things that happens. And we have
mhm,
to acknowledge it. We have to talk about it. And so once we talk about it, we acknowledge it, we can make it better. But
mhm,
the statistics show that people of color, unfortunately, our healthcare is not as our outcomes aren't as great as other people. So because of that, self-advocacy is important. So what did you think when you saw that whole article? Because I was like, Oprah, even Oprah says she has an advocate.
I first of all, I was like, okay, if Oprah, who's Oprah, feels the need to bring somebody to her doctor's appointments, like we all should be doing this. And I can 100% see how being on the tips of either end of that spectrum can be dangerous. If
Mm-hmm.
you have no self-advocacy skills, you are a minority, you're an overlooked population, maybe you're homeless, like there's no one really checking to make sure that you're getting, treated equitably, equally, fairly. And then on the opposite end of that spectrum, you're no longer even seen as a person. Oprah became an entity. And this doctor did not want to be
Mm-hmm.
responsible for the fall of this entire Oprah empire. And so instead of following I'm sure you guys have, all right, well, we're going to start here. We're going to go down this list, do A, B, and
Right,
C. If this, then that all of
right,
that process went out the window. And it was, well, Oprah's not having a heart attack while she's here. She's not
right.
having a stroke while she's here. Going to give her a CT scan. And she's like, but I really just needed some blood work done. And we could have, got this without me having to go through all these other
Right.
expensive processes and scans and tests. So I saw it and I understood immediately how being on either end, either too famous or completely faceless and nameless, can be dangerous.
You're right, and I like that you bring it up because there are two ends of the spectrum. Because the other one that still resonates with me today is like my neighbor. My neighbor doesn't really have any family here, and he told me, he
Mm-hmm.
said something is going on with my ankle. It's like it is really, really, it's so painful. I can't walk on it. So, well, you need to go ahead, see if you can get in with your PCP. He could not. So go to the ER and see if you can get some help. So he goes, and I said, because of how painful it is, I'm thinking like, what's the top most concerning thing that it could be? I said, I think it's a blood clot. Let them know that that's what I'm thinking about. And he says, okay. He gets there. They do like, some labs and stuff like that. I said, no, we think it's more gout. Well, I couldn't question that because I wasn't there. I'm not sure what he told him. So he gets that diagnosis. I said, well, it potentially could be that too. That was on my list. So he comes home and he takes the medicine. A week goes by. He is still in significant pain. I said, something's not right. It's like, you got to go back. And so, and how he has to get there is by EMS because he can't drive himself there. He doesn't have family to take him there. So EMS comes to the house again and they take him. So he thinks they're going to keep me. So he takes his stuff because he thinks he's going to stay. He goes, and sure enough, they find a blood clot. Okay, great. So but they didn't keep him. They gave him some medicine. And I said, okay, but he got the treatment that he needed. So I thought at the time. Another week goes by. He's in significant pain. I said, no, we should be over this by now. Like, this should not still be happening. And I know him, and I know that he's not like a pain seeker. He's not a frequent flyer in the hospital, anything like. So I was like, this is serious. I know that's serious. So I told him again, I said, you have to go back again. He didn't want to go. He was very hesitant, did not want to go. It's like, I need you to go. And so he took my word and he called EMS up again. EMS shows up to his house and they say, we don't think you should, you sure you in that much pain? You probably can just stay here because we've been here. Because essentially they've been there already 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
They've been there 2 times. So now he's looking like a frequent flyer. So they say,
Mm-hmm.
you sure you want to go? Thankfully, my husband was there and spoke up for him and said, yes. And if they feel like he doesn't need to be here, then they will send him home. But, and that resonated to me because in that documentary, when Oprah was talking, she was talking about these COVID patients and how they
Mm-hmm.
went and were persistent and kept going to the hospital and kept going to the hospital. And then they said, they tried to speak up for themselves. No one was listening. And unfortunately, these people were dying. They were dying at home, or they were dying alone in the hospital, and their families didn't know about it. And I was like, this is what happens when you don't have anybody to advocate for you. And so I
Mm-hmm.
told him, I said, when you go this third time, if they try to discharge you, you call me, because now I know I'm going to have to be the one to speak for
Mm-hmm.
you, because I need to talk to someone to see, what did you guys do? What do you think this is? Kind of, where are we? Because, and explain to them who you are as a person, for them to be able to
Mm-hmm.
see he's not just a frequent flyer. He's not just somebody who's coming in here trying to get pain medicine or anything like that. He's a person who has a real concern. And I'm a physician and I know that this is serious. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, that's what I was going to have to do. So a few hours go by. We didn't hear from him. We were kind of nervous. We said, okay, did
Right.
they send him home or is he coming back? But they finally admitted him, and come to find out, he was in the hospital for almost 2 weeks because they looked at the leg again more extensively and actually were confused. They didn't know what was going on with it or why, what it was happening, or what, like, it took a lot of investigation. It's a serious deal if you're in the hospital for 2 weeks, because
Mm-hmm.
they try to get you in.
And
They try to
out.
get you in and out.
Them beds got to turn over now. In and out.
In and out. So that tells you how serious this was But unfortunately, it was kind of like, oh, well, maybe not. Let's send him home. Let's see what happens. But I had to be persistent with him to help
Mm-hmm.
him say, okay, this is what's going on. And so I feel like that is also something. And I know him and I know his personality, and his personality is to be a little bit more laid back. Well, maybe it's not
Mm-hmm.
that serious. Maybe I can just
Mm-hmm.
deal with this pain. Maybe,
Mm-hmm.
patients or clients probably come to you and say, well, maybe I shouldn't ask for that raise. Maybe this
Mm-hmm.
isn't the time for me to do that. Maybe I need to do a few more things and prove to them, and they'll just see it. Those sorts of things, because, again, it's like what you said, confidence and stuff too,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's are those things that people are coming to you to kind of say, how do you help guide me through this? Like, how do I build my confidence to be able to speak up, and so you can say for yourself, no, no, I'm not leaving here until we get this resolved, because like it was 3 weeks.
Right.
Three
And
weeks.
absolutely, folks are coming because they know that they want something to change, but sometimes it's
Mm,
just getting that first step. What is the first thing I can do? And sometimes
mm,
folks just need a couple of sessions and they're good to go. Sometimes folks need a little bit more intensive work as they're going through something. Maybe they want me to hold their hand while they're going through. If you want me to be your patient advocate, by all means, I can do that for you as well. I will work to try to figure out what we can do to set you up for success, whether that's me personally, whether it's getting you a nurse navigator, figuring out who in your network is ready, willing, and able to help you speak up for yourself, whatever it takes. I'm here to help make sure that we are not just needlessly perishing because someone else didn't take our needs and our concerns seriously, or if we're just miserable in life because other folks aren't taking our needs and our concerns seriously. It's just, we don't have to live like that. Life is too short. Let's try to make the best of it.
that is so true. And I like that you have a lot of different resources out there for people to be able to do that. And one of them is about like the different questions that people can ask when they go to their
Hmm.
doctor's office. Like, these are the questions that I have. And the reason I like that is because one of the things, like we say, we don't want to seem disrespectful, because again, this
Hmm.
person, we don't want to say, this person just being dismissive to me. Some people, they're being dismissive, right? You
Hmm.
just tell that
Of
they're
course.
not listening. It is what. But some people may not fully understand kind of what you're saying, or whatever that
Hmm.
is. You guys just have an issue with communication. You haven't figured
Right.
that out yet. But there's a way to do anything. My mom always told me, she was like, there's always a way to say it. It's not what you
Hmm.
say, it's how
It's
you
how
said
you
it.
say it.
It's how
I
you
heard
say
that
it,
a
right?
few times growing up. Oh, a few times. But yes.
So, with that, how do people approach, especially any kind of quote unquote authority figure? How do they approach that person and say, "Hey, this is what's going on," but I'm still concerned. If they say, "Oh, well, we'll just run some tests and then we'll follow up," and then after that, you get to the next step, and then, okay, well, this is all that I have for you, whatever. Like, how do we, or they say, "No, I don't think we need to do tests right now. I think you're
Hmm.
fine. I think you'll be okay." How do
Hmm.
you now be appropriate and respectful, but still get what you need? How
Hmm.
do you do
I,
that?
I like to remind clients, everybody, that doctors and nurses, they're people too. They have
Right.
good days and bad days, on days, off days. They're tired. They are overworked, sometimes underpaid. Like, have a little bit of empathy for them as well. Of course, don't
Yeah.
let that empathy overshadow you getting something that you need.
Right.
But doctors, nurses, medical staff, they're people too. So try to approach all things the same way you would like to be approached, and with a level of respect. I would say if you've already spoken up and voiced your concerns and they just kind of gave you this brush off with the, yeah, we'll just run some tests, nothing's wrong, you'll be all right, you can go on about your way. Now is the time to reach into that toolkit to figure out, all right, well, that didn't work. What else can I do? I can request a second opinion. I can get that
Mm,
second opinion from another doctor in this network, or I can reach out to my insurance company and say, hey, do you guys offer some sort of service where I can get a second opinion? Because the insurance company wants you to be well as well. They don't want to have to pay for anything. So if they can save money on the
mm,
back end by sending you over here for $50 and let Dr. B take a look
right.
versus everybody was wrong and now they had to pay for a CT scan and a CAT scan and a PET
Right.
scan and this and that, and you know what I mean, unnecessarily. they want you to get care and get better as quick as possible as well. So your insurance company is always a resource. You can bring that trusted person to your doctor's appointments with you so that maybe the doctor doesn't really communicate well with you and your communication style, but maybe your dad, your brother, your sister, your mom, maybe they have a different way of communicating or even receiving the information. So maybe it's not that the doctor's not communicating it, maybe the way they speak and you learn don't align. If
Mm.
you're a visual learner and he's just talking, you're not going to get it. You're getting frustrated. He's getting frustrated. You might just need that third person to be like, maybe we should draw this out. Maybe we should write this down because that person knows you trust them, and your doctor just wants you to get well as well. So it becomes time to dig into that toolkit to figure out which would be the best way to address it for next steps. Or sometimes it's a combination of multiple steps. Maybe it's the second opinion. And while you're waiting for that second opinion, you're bringing the trusted person to your appointments for them to explain some things. Or sometimes you just have to combine all your resources to make sure that you are getting the treatment that you need.
I like that because it's not just one thing, it's multiple things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
some people think, oh, if I just get this patient advocate, then this person will speak for me and I'll get what I need. But you still have to be a part of that process. And the other
Right.
thing I like that you said too, that touched on like being prepared.
Mm-hmm.
I think that really, really helps because for me, when a patient is trying to convey what's going on, we only have so much time to do it. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. And so, in that amount of time, can you tell me what's going on? Or am I going to have to ask a lot of questions to try to figure out what's going on? Like something as simple as
Mm-hmm.
when did that happen? I get it's been a minute. I don't know if that's a southern thing or what, but I always get it's been a minute. And I'm like, so is a minute a week? Is it 2 days?
Literally,
Right.
or
So if you at least come letting us know like when some of your symptoms started, what happened, all of these things, that kind of
mm-hmm.
helps us to understand what's going on with you. And like you said, having somebody who writes that information down for you. Like I remember going to my mom is she's the first advocate that I've ever known. She
Mm-hmm.
will advocate for whoever, however, when she will speak up.
Mm-hmm.
She and she taught us to speak up. And I was like super shy. I was a super shy kid. I would cry all the time. If somebody looked at me wrong,
Oh.
I would cry. And she was like, what in the world? Like, no, we are going to make you like the super speaker or whatever. So, anyways, like, but she had her moment where she was vulnerable. And when that diagnosis, and she knows I share this a lot, but when she got that diagnosis of cancer, she was like, I need somebody to go with me because
Mm-hmm.
once you have something like that, you can you're not processing, you're not listening to all the things.
Exactly.
And so she knew what her objective was, and she already told me kind of where she wanted to go with her treatment plan. But she was like, I need you to go with me to this appointment because although she had all of that and she knew what she wanted, because it was such a weight around all of that and everything that went along with it, she wanted to make sure that that information got out with her, right? And then even when they
Mm-hmm.
talked about how they were going to do her treatments, like she thought she understood it and she said this is what they said, and I was like, so she was like, you go with me. So then that's when I sat down with the nurse and we wrote it out and said, okay, she's gonna do it
Mm-hmm.
like this and da 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 da. So then when we left, she heard everything. She heard everything that happened in that visit, but she didn't comprehend it and fully understand it until like we got home, she got
Right.
settled, we were able to sit down and fully process it. So I fully agree. And if you can't have someone to go with you, I've even told them like sometimes I had to just be on speaker. And so you can ask your provider, hey, do you mind if I put this person on speaker? Because this is my person, and I know this person
Mm-hmm.
will understand. Like I get men who do it all the time.
Oh,
Hold
of
on, let me
course.
get my wife. Let me put my
Of
wife on the
course.
I hate to do the men like that, but they do. There's more men than women, but they always say, "Let me get my wife on the phone. She can tell you what happened. She can tell you why I do this." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna talk to your wife, and then after this, you and I are gonna have a discussion about why
Right.
you need to know, kind of what's going on with yourself."
Mm-hmm.
But that is one of the things that I feel like people need to know. Like there are multiple facets to patient
Mm-hmm.
advocacy. there are multiple different or advocacy period, like in your life. Like you might need to have that person to just sometimes just having that person there to support you, to just say, I'm here. And sometimes that makes you feel relaxed. Like you said, when that doctor came in and said what he said, that makes you feel seen. And you said, okay, I
Right.
can, like, I know that I'm in the right place and I'm going to get what I need. And you are like already able to relax and say what you need to say. So
Absolutely.
I think that's important. Tell us some of the other things that you have, because the one of the ones that I know about is the 21 questions. Now I'm gonna tell people I love that, but don't think that you can get through all 21 questions in your
No. This is
okay,
not
tell them,
ask
Jess.
21 of these in this appointment. This is pick and choose from here the questions that best suit you during your doctor's appointment. If you have no clue what to ask or you need something to kind of get the conversation going, I provide 21 different questions that you can ask, as well as Dr. Ashley alluded to earlier, some tips and tricks on things that you can say when the two of you don't agree. So, how you can respectfully, push back and ask for that second opinion, or ask them to explain something to you again, or help you understand why they want to do A and not B. Have them
Mm,
pretty much have you become a partner on that journey and not just a patient that just blindly follows whatever they prescribe.
okay. And before we go, I want, why do you feel like, because to me, I feel like self-advocacy is like the ultimate self-care. Because one of the biggest things that people are talking about these days is self-care. And they say, oh, it's a massage. Oh, it's, taking long bubble baths. Oh, it's getting my nails done, which I'm not against any of that. I think, we have different parts of us that make us feel great about ourselves. And so we do need to do that. But why do you feel like self-advocacy is a part of self-appreciation and self-care?
Well, at the heart and at the root of self advocacy is effective boundary making. Once you're
Mm,
effective at setting
mm,
those boundaries, it's pretty much like giving yourself a hug. You have designated this as a safe space. So no one can come inside this tiny little square. This is where Jessica hugs Jessica. And this is where I don't need any sort of the negativity or the stresses of other people kind of making its way and creeping into my little self advocacy bubble. So to me, self advocacy is self appreciation because I'm effectively setting that boundary and enforcing it.
mm,
It allows me to give myself a hug and be with myself in this space and just kind of leave the outside world where they are for just a little bit longer. If I can speak up for myself, I can protect that vulnerable Jessica, that the Jessica that can just take the deep breath and just relax. I can protect her if I speak
mm.
up for myself in general. Folks will know where they stand, they know what they can and can't do. Life becomes a lot less stressful. It becomes a life that I enjoy living versus a life that's happening to me.
Okay. I love it. Jess, I don't want this to end because I feel like this is like such a big thing. Like once people, and that was another word that I was thinking too. I was like protection. Like it is
Mhm.
a way to protect yourself. And that's the other thing that goes around that people are saying now is protect my peace. But
Mhm.
honestly, that is how you do it. You set those boundaries and you're able to kind of protect yourself and get what you need and say, nope, not today. And okay, or this is what I need to do, but getting what you need is essential. So but we have to kind of bring it to a close, but before we
I
do,
guess.
I know. But before we do, tell the people, is there anything else that you want people to know about you, or just about like self-care and self-advocacy in general? Kind of what are your thoughts?
I would say if I had to leave the folks with one thing, it would be that trust your gut. You know your body best. You've lived with your body your entire life. If it doesn't feel right, speak up and say something. And like I said, make them prove to you that nothing is wrong. Of course, being open to the fact that there might not be anything wrong. So don't like really take yourself over the edge if there's nothing wrong, but at least let them prove to you that nothing is wrong. Don't let them just
Right.
dismiss your concerns.
Okay. And let everyone know like how they can find you. Where would they be able to find all these great things and resources that you have for them? And if they want to work with you, where can they find you?
Alrighty. Well, I am if nothing else, I am consistent. I am at Jess the IE, as you guys can see kind of near my name, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, my website, www.jessthie.com. And if you guys are interested, I'll have Dr. Ashley maybe post a link to my 21 questions guide so you guys can download that. It's absolutely free. Just download it, take a look at it, read it. I even included space for you to write your own questions if you want to take this entire thing to the doctor's appointment with you. I think it'll be a nice little tool to have in your tool belt.
It's not, I think, I know it's an awesome tool because Jess is awesome. I've looked at it. It has some
Thank you,
awesome
ma'am.
tips and tricks in there. And so I know that it is going to help you get the things that you need. Jess, thank you so much for honoring us and gracing us with your presence today and coming out and really sharing some essential information, because I know that it truly can be life changing for a lot of people. Because once you're able to kind of stand up for yourself and have that confidence about what you need and start getting what you want out of life in general, things are going to be much better. You guys, we're actually going to post a repost so that you'll be able to see it. Continue to follow both me and Jess because we'll have things to kind of help you along the way. Again, I'm doing a lot of these talks is to just help you with your health, but not only just with your health, it is to help you with your life overall. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and I will see you next time.